Good morning, everybody. I see our attendees starting to drop in. We're getting our computers fired up, and we'll get started here in just a minute or two. There's Vanessa. Okay, so welcome everyone. Good morning. Welcome back for session 2 of our Searching for Homesteads 101 class. Today we're going to watch Vanessa actually dig in to the General Lands Office records and do some searches. We have 3 examples from members of the Historical Society that they had sent to us wanting assistance in finding some properties of family members. So we're going to use those as examples. We're going to get deep into the General Land Office today with a side trip into the Deschutes County Clerk's Office and the records that are with the Deschutes County Clerk's Office. And this is a moment mentioning members of the society that I can remind you guys that we would love to have you join the Deschutes Historical Society as members. You can do that on our website, deschuteshistory.org. And as you guys are doing your research, that gives you access to us as anytime we're open to come in and use our records, use our brains, and complete your research in the area. So with that, I'll remind you that I'll be manning the chat and Q&A fields. So shoot your questions over and we can circle back around to them. Other than that, I'm going to turn it over to Vanessa and let's take a trip, shall we?
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you had an opportunity to explore some of the sites that I sent out to you on the sheet, on your resource sheet, and have kind of sunk in on how to find the property address, the township range and section from last week's lesson. So today, we're going to explore the General Land Office records. I'm going to try and do a live walkthrough with you on the actual site. But before we jump to the site, I want to kind of do a step-by-step with slides to show you exactly what you're going to be seeing, because I think sometimes if I get on the site, it goes very quickly. So this way you can actually see the page and learn a little bit more about what you're looking for and how to activate different parts of the pages you're going to be seeing. This time I'm going to use my family and from Oklahoma, the Mears family, so that you can see that this is not just an Oregon site, that you can look up family and properties outside of this area. And so you can see here the Harrison Mears family. So this is the homepage to the Bureau of Land Management, GLO records page. And the BLM inherited more than 9 million land documents. These were records that were difficult to read. They were beginning to deteriorate. And so the BLM optically scanned these patents and entered the information into a large database so that it would be accessible by the public. Now, not every site is in this record. They are continually adding new properties, around 1,000 at a time, daily. So if you don't find what you're looking for, check back in a month or a week, and maybe it will be there. Not every entry, like I said, is in here, and not every entry has a photograph of the patent. And not all homesteads, remember, were obtained through the General Land Office records. So we have an example of one of those, but you might get in and find, oh, my family is not here, or the person I thought had purchased through a land act, it's not here. And that just may be that they had purchased the property early on from a neighbor, through the state, through an irrigation district. So they would not be in the General Land Office records. Land entries also do not always result in land patents. And this is the case if the homestead was canceled, the claim was canceled and unsuccessful. But I understand you can research this through the National Archives. You can ask for help on those, that they do keep a record of unsuccessful claims. And remember, those properties would have resorted back to the federal government. The federal government would have then turned around and sold the land to someone else. So you click on search document by type. Let me go back for just a second. You'll notice there's 3 options. You have search documents, reference center, and support. So we're going to go into search documents in a minute, but the reference center is more like a manual to the site. So it has glossary terminology. It has how to use certain pages, how to navigate through the General Land Office records. So that is a really good resource. It is also in the reference center that you'll find how to order a land entry case file. And if you remember last week, a patent is what you received from the General Land Office after you sent in your land entry case file or proof of proving up. And so you are not going to be able to see or download the land entry case files off this website. Those you have to obtain through the National Archives. You can do that request through email, or in my case, I was able to get it from a friend who visited Washington, D.C. and went to the National Archives doing research for their own family and also looked some stuff up for myself. So all of that information, though, is available on this site. And then support. Support is basically what it is. If you have questions for the General Land Office records, something's not working, you're unsure how this works, you have links to different sites where you can ask questions. So we've clicked search document by type, and it is here that you want to fill in as much information as you have, and you may not get lucky the first time. So in my case, I was looking for Chetam or Chet Mears, and I put in Oklahoma. I wasn't sure of the county, so I had left it blank. I put in Mears and I put in Chet, and I did not pull up anything. I knew he had a brother, Matthew, so I tried that. I was also unsuccessful. So I, instead of putting in the information that I had, I just put in Mears. And when I did that, I pulled up a lot of different Mears. This is just a sample. And what I found was that Harrison C. Mears and Lewis M. Mears. So in this case, Harrison went by his middle name, Chet, and so did Matthew, or Lewis Matthew. So sometimes it's really great not to put in a lot of information and just get a brief overall of what is there, and then kind of pick your way through it and see if your family member or person you're looking for is on the site. Okay, so from here, and these are the three I was looking at. And the other thing I discovered here was that Harrison also had a brother, Oliver, that I was not aware of. You can all see they homesteaded in Payne County. And Harrison and Lewis actually homesteaded close to each other. They weren't that far apart. Oliver got a completely different piece of property. Now, when these guys were getting their property, it was actually during the Oklahoma run. And so run for the border. They lined up on the border and they took off with stakes, and they had already gone through, they knew what they wanted. They had already kind of scoped out what property they were interested in. And so on the day of the opening, they got on their horses with their stakes and ran out and staked their property, hence the terminology. In this case, I want to see Harrison's actual patent, and you have a button here. If you do not see an icon for patent, that means there's not a photo for one, but you do have another option by clicking the blue, and that will take you to the patent that's more readable. So it's not an actual photo, it's the information that the General Land Office transferred into a document that's readable and more comprehensive. And you can see here are the two documents. You have the one on the left is the actual photo of the deed, and the one on the right is the Bureau of Land Management's comprehensible document they transfer the information into. There is information on this document that you're going to need in order to get the proof entry file that you may want to order. So you have where they filed, so the General Land Office, in this case is Guthrie, Oklahoma. You'll need the document numbers, the homestead entry and file number. You need to know who made the claim, and you also need to know the description of the property. So I'm heading back. I want to show you. So if I click on this blue button here, then I get the comprehensible document. And if you click on the box that has the description, you're actually going to have this orange box pop up, and it will show you the location of this address. So the piece of property that Harrison had is this little tiny box. And on the side here, you have where you can zoom in and out and see more closely. Also on this page, it tells you what land act that he claimed it under. In this case, it was the Homestead Entry Act of 1862. And you also have a button for related documents. So if I click related documents, then I get this page. And this is going to not be specific to each of these individuals. It is going to be specific to the Township 18 Range 1. In this case, Section 25 we're looking at. But mostly it's Township Range. So we have surveys, LSR, CDI, and track books. And what do all of these mean? These are just more tools that are at your disposal. Surveys is what I use most, and we'll get into that in just a minute. LSR is the land status records. So after homesteading, this basically explains through plat maps and other documents the ongoing use of the land, both private and federally owned. So you'll see when we do a live for Harrison, this is where it will map out, because it's Oklahoma, if there were any oil or minerals, other documents will pop up. CDI is the Control Document Index. This was started in 1950, and it was mainly microfilming copies of the information, and before it was all digital. And it conveys title to and from the United States, so like land patents. It also has microfilm documents which affect or have affected land rights, land control, and use of public land resources. And then the final one is track books. And this is basically bound volumes listing all transactions involving survey of public lands. And my experience has been that for both track books and CDI, I don't generally find very much. And usually if I do find something with CDI, all it is doing is showing that there was a microfilm copy of the document. All right, so those are related documents, and I've clicked surveys, and so now I come up with another page. And in this case, I have original survey, and I have the plat image, and I also have field notes. So the original survey has to do with the carefully drawn graphical map of the boundaries, and it includes the field notes, which are here. And those are the chronological description of the actions of the surveyors. It also lets you know who the surveyors were, when the survey was approved and taken. It contains detailed descriptions of the process, the instruments involved, all kinds of stuff. It can be very detailed and it can be very brief. If I click on original survey, this is the page that I get. You can see the survey office is Washington, D.C. It is only dealing with the township range. So here it shows you that that particular 6 mile by 6 mile square was surveyed in 1872 January. It was completed in the end of January of 1872, and it was approved in March of 1872. And it also tells you who did the surveyor. So here's deputy surveyor, and here's the commissioner who approved it. If you were to click on this button, much like in the patent, a big orange square is going to pop up and show you the 6 mile by 6 mile section that you're looking at. You can then click on plat image, And when you do that, you're going to get an original plat map. And what I like to do with these is I like to print them out. You have options, PDF or JPEG, and I usually do JPEG, so it's in a photo format. It's easier to drop into other documents that I may be putting together. And then what I do after I print this out is I like to add in where the property is that my relative, in this case Harrison, had, and I'll label it. In this case, northwest quarter of section 25. And the other thing that I'll do is I'll label what some of these landmarks are. So for instance, this is Wild Horse Creek. And on mine, I've labeled it because he named his ranch Wild Horse Ranch after the creek. Okay. So this is an image of those proving up documents that in this case Harrison would have filled out, sent $6 in, and included 2 witnesses' copies, and sent it all into the general land office to get approval that they would then say, yes, you fulfilled what you were required, ticked all the boxes, and we're now sending you your deed. And so you can see here the first page is the registrar. So you take it to the post office, and the registrar there is like, yes, this is officially been received and is being mailed on this date. The proof of publication is found in newspapers. You are required to post the property that you were interested in filing for, and that's what this is. And then this is the survey or questionnaire that you would have filled out, and it included many questions, including what is your name, age, address, are you native born, are you the same person that filed the claim originally, how many people are living on the claim, who are they, what have you done with the property the first year, how many crops did you plant, how many acres of that did you plant, if you left the property at any time, how long were you away? So a number of different questions that you would have filled out and then sent off. Now, this, like I said, is not available to print out on the General Land Office website, but you can make a request for it on the National Archives website in Washington, D.C., or you can visit, when it opens again, and maybe you're taking a trip out east, you can stop in Washington, D.C. at the National Archives and see if you can get a copy of this for yourself. All right, so I now want to go through and do some live searches. I'm going to go to the home page, and while we're here, let me just show you what the reference center looks like. So here's all these different topics and frequently asked questions and glossary that you can look up. And for instance, here's that land entry case file, and here's the information, what you need to know, how do you go about sending your request in, and it gives you the addresses and what you need. So that is on this page. Support looks like basically questions, comments, suggestions. So just like any kind of contact us page. Let's go to search documents. So it always automatically defaults to Alabama. We are going to go to Oklahoma. And I'm going to leave any county. I'm going to put in Mears. I'm going to put in Harrison. I'll put in the meridian is Indian. So Oklahoma has 2 meridians. Oregon has 1, the Willamette. In this case, Oklahoma has 2, Indian and the Cimarron. I'm going to click search patent. If you want to fill in information here, I've never used this. I only play around in here. But if you were looking up, I think property owned by Native Americans, here's where you would pick the tribe. If you knew the land office that the property was filed in, you could add it here. So I don't generally use this at all. So I'm going to search patents. And here's Harrison. And I'm going to go, and again, shows me the date that the patent was released, so 1896. The document number, the state that it was filed for, the meridian, township range. Here's the section. These are the smaller parts of the section, and the county. All right, so he filed it under the Homestead Entry Act. He filed a total of 160 acres on this particular claim. Meets and bounds, no, because it was surveyed using the rectangular survey system, the PLSS. So here's, you get this blank image, and if I click on map, it is now going to highlight that property. So this address is this. So here's the range of 1. Here's the township of 18 North. Here's section 25, and of section 25, he claimed the northwest quarter of that section. I like this because this is actually a modern map. And so it gives you an idea of where the property was located. So you could go to Google Earth or another map and actually be able to kind of pinpoint it on a modern map of where the property was located or is located. Okay, so let's go up here to related documents. So we can see here, there's nothing in the track books, nothing in the CDI, so nothing's been microfilmed. The LSR, so master title plat, I believe is the same as the survey. I click on that. Oh, so it is a little different. This is, if I go back, go to related documents again. Survey. That's the same as the oil and gas map. Pretty similar. Let me see if I can. And then surveys. This is my favorite. I'll click on original survey. So it shows me here. This is the same page I showed you earlier, where it's survey commenced and completed and approved. Again, not all of that information may show up on every survey, whatever the information they had. I can click on here and it shows me where that 6 mile by 6 mile tract that I'd be exploring is. And then I can click on the plat image. And here's the plat image again. And you can see down here, here's your choices, and then it'll download it to your computer. And then from there, you can print it off or do whatever you want to do with it. And then these keys allow you, just like it says, you can zoom in. So you can zoom up and down. So here's section 25, and here is the quarter that Harrison owned. And so you can see it has the river running through it, which was one of the things, one of his checkoffs that he wanted. He wanted to have water source on his property. Okay, we go back. All right, let's try a different one here. Go search document. And so one of our members had sent in, and all she had was a name. And she said the homestead was east of Bend on the way to Burns. So I'm going to leave county just blank. And we had a name, was Hall. And his first name was Gordon. Since it's in Oregon and we only have one meridian, I'm just going to go ahead and click Willamette and then click search. And here's Gordon V and Gordon without a middle initial. So my guess is it's probably the same Gordon. And he made two separate claims. So one township 1 north, 22 east. It's the west half of section 8 in Gillum County. And then he also had properties on township 23 south, 24 south, and 25 east and 24 east in Harney County. So if you can click and see the patent. Here's the patent for that claim. And you can see here, you can download. I would not print directly from the site. I would always download. It's easier because then I can manipulate the document and I can save it where I want. It's just easier. Sometimes there's complications if you try and print off the website, sometimes some glitches. So if I go, here's the patent detail, the easier read. You can see the land office was in Burns. It was under the Homestead Act. He claimed 308.07 acres of land. And then if we click, wait, where's our map? Oh, that's a little odd. Let's go back. Here we go. I don't know what the glitch was, but you can see if we click, you start to see the properties come in. You can unclick what you want. If you're specifically looking at one part of this, you can unclick that, or, and again, you can see current map and where that property is today, or would be today. Go up to related documents. We can see that nothing in the tract book. There is some stuff that was done for CDI, nothing in LSR and surveys. And in this case, it's for Township 23, Range 25. We click on here and there is a photo of it. Okay. Related and plat image. And then again, you can print it out and fill in the information. A lot of times, if you click on related documents here, it's going to show you who was also around that property you're interested in. So neighbors that you may end up getting some more information that way. So Northern Pacific Railroad, you can see what was there. All right, I'm going to do another. So this time this time we didn't have a name. All we had was an address, and he got this address off of the tax information. So it's the tax lot information. We know it's Oregon. In this case, we know it's Deschutes County. So you want to use, even though Deschutes County wasn't created until 1916, it was Crook County prior to that. You want to put in the county that is currently there, because that's where the document information is going to be found. So if I was to put in Crook County, I'm not going to find this next person because they had their property in what is now Deschutes County. So I don't have a name, but I do have township range and section. So it's Township 17, South, Range 13, East, Meridian, Willamette, Section 31. So on your tax lot number, you're going to have the first 6 numbers are going to be township, range, and section. Then you may have an alphabet. In this case, there was a C. So it's the southwest quarter of section 31 is C. So we're going to look here. And what we find is Deschutes County, the state of Oregon, and the state of Oregon. So that tells me that this particular property that he was researching was not initially, what he's trying to figure out is his relative did not initially purchase it from the federal government through a land act, that he most likely had purchased it from the state or from a neighbor or from someone else, not directly from the federal government. So what that means is we now jump to, because it's Deschutes County, we're going to go to the Deschutes County Clerk's office and do records research. And we'll go into this more next week, but I just want to show you another way of looking for property. So in this case, I'm going to pull up meets and bounds grantor-grantee indexes prior to 1960. It brings me to the map. So I'm going to go to 17. Here's townships here. I'm cross-referencing township and range. So here's 13 and township 17. Click on. So here's all the grantee grantor for the property index. And what we see, this is for the entire 6 mile by 6 mile. If I go to section 31, which is right here, we'll see there's a 6 and an X. And by going to the top, we see 6 is the Carry Act list. So that property most likely had been purchased by the state under the Carry Act or Desert Land Reclamation Act. And it also had Central Oregon Irrigation District. They're the ones that were supplying the irrigation. I can then either scroll down, you see on this first page, it has section 1. So I can either scroll all the way down to 31, but I like to use the thumbnails. And I know because I've already looked this up, that if I go to page 40, here, I can either type in page 40 up here, or I can just click on the thumbnail. Here it is, section 31, township 17, range 13. Sometimes these are more than one page. So we can see that that whole area was in fact purchased by the state of Oregon. At some point, you had the Pilot Butte Development Company had purchased it. And here's another irrigation company here in 1905. And then here's the state in 1908. And then it was divided up. So we were looking for C, which is southwest. So you can hear each of these is a quarter. We want the southwest quarter, and each of those is a quarter. In this case, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 instead of A, B, C, D. And it's just a case now of going down. So we can see here that Mr. Harris purchased a quarter of Southwest. We can see here that Mr. looks like McKnight purchased a quarter. Torkelson purchased a quarter. Go all the way to the next page. We can see number 1, Southwest. Here we go. And the State Reclamation Commission sold that quarter to Ellingson. So a relative of who was doing the research, that the property deed went through in January 16, 1945. It's in the deed book, volume 66, page 148. Let me always write this down. Again, just like in the general land office records, you can download it. If you click print, it will download it and then allow you to put it puts it in a print mode. So what am I writing down? Deed, volume 66, page 148. So what I can do there is if I go, let's see. Back to records resource page, you'll see find your real property record. Here's deeds. And that's what I want. and it was in book 66. So I go to 51 to 75. And I go down to 66. And I know what page it is, so I don't have to scroll through everything. I can type in 148. And there's, oh, let's see. We want 148. 147. Catch up. Not always user friendly. You do what you can. And here is State Reclamation Commission to Lewis Ellingson, filed January 16th, 1945. And there is the deed to the property. So we're going to look at that more next week, playing around more with Dial and with the county clerk records. So does anybody have any questions? That's kind of in a nutshell.
Clear as mud. So I just wanted to confirm that when you're talking about printing out and labeling, you personally are you're hand drawing then on the original plat maps when you're printing them out, because I've seen your work. You like to take like a highlighter and color in the portion of the square on your printed out copy of the plat map, correct?
I do like to use colored pencils and highlighters, but if that's not your thing, when you download it to your computer, if you do it as a JPEG and not as a PDF, it's a photograph. So you could then open it in Photos and then edit it however you want in there. Because I think those have tools too that allow you to draw lines. And so if you are more comfortable on the computer, that's an option. I do like to use colored pencils and whatnot. So I feel like I'm doing more mapping that way, the old fashioned way. So
Your
yes,
own
however you
cartography.
feel comfortable doing it. The point is that it gives you the option to download it to your computer so that you can print it out and have it in your file, whether it's in a 3-ring binder or on a file on your computer. So you have the document.
Got it. And not that it's something that you can do inside the general land office records. And that's the point of downloading the JPEG, is then you can manipulate it, you know, with your favorite Photoshop software or old school colored pencils and highlighters, whatever your choice is. There's just all kinds of things, you know, available on the internet now that is really remarkable, and that you don't have to go all the way to Washington, D.C. or into the county office to be able to find it. Can you flip on your internet screen back over to the clerk's page with the diagram? And just one more time, go over, if someone only has the tax ID number for a piece of property, just one more time, can you show us how you get to township range section from that? The clerk's office has that great little box that shows the ABCD. And so it might be a good suggestion to, you know, print that little image out and have it near you, so that if you have to have that visual reminder of, okay, C is actually the southwest corner, you know, number 1. Yeah, that one.
So I have also included this kind of diagram on the handout that I sent out to everybody. So there should be something similar as well. But yes, as a reminder, this is a section. So like one of these. So this whole thing here is one of these squares. And this whole thing is one of these squares. And divided into quarters, so A, B, C, D, and then each of those are divided into quarters, A, B, C, D, and each of these are divided into quarters, A, B, C, D. So you might see, not to like totally confuse you, but if it gets down to like A, B, A, you know, it gets like tiny, tiny, tiny. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, A of A would be like up here. So
Yeah, the
just
thing
gets
to
smaller and
no,
smaller and smaller.
and smaller and smaller. The thing that always gets me, oh, it always catches me up, and correct me if I'm wrong, when you go into the clerk's meets and bounds and you see that the great spreadsheet where they're actually handwriting in the sale and they're marking which one it is, the A, B, C, D on that document is represented by the 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right. So what
Correct?
you will
Yeah.
see, yes. So the initial big quarters would be north, northeast, northwest, southwest, southeast, and then 1, 2, 3, 4.
Thank you. Just
1,
wanted to
2.
point that out to everyone. It's not fair that they use A, B, C, D in the 1 and then they switch it up on you to 1, 2, 3, 4. So
But it's
just
all
that visual
it's all
cue.
the same system. So
Yes, it is all the same system.
it's probably because, I don't know, maybe small, you know, you can't get all of NW, SW into those small little spaces, and it was easier to just do a 1, a 2, a 3, and a
Numbers.
4.
Yeah. But the letters are what's going to show up in their tax ID number, correct?
Yes.
So if the only thing you have is the tax ID number, that's where you're translating a letter to a number.
Yes. I say this
Okay.
hesitantly because there's always exceptions. So
we won't worry about exceptions. We'll help sort those out later.
So I would say generally yes.
Okay. That's it for our Q&A. And unless anybody wants to jump in, just a reminder that you will get a recording of this. You are always welcome to email us for clarification on any of the information that Vanessa covered. And good luck with your searches. Next week, we'll dive even deeper into the county, and you're going to do some fun zooming searches with Google Satellite, right?
Yes, and I'm going to also try and talk about different maps that you can look at. And not all the maps are online, so it will, some of the maps that I'm going to show you are only available here at the museum. So it just means that you'll have to schedule a time to come in and explore our archive.
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Vanessa. And thanks to everyone for hanging out with us on this Saturday. And we'll see you next week.